Got him regular season MVP all the way back in season 7, and since then Harif has just kind of fallen off the map, but now he's back and he is a terror in the right hands.
Yep, just dominant all across the board, right? He wants to be able to trade out aggressively in his lane, give him enough time, and he'll eventually carry as well. That's what you want to have as a dependable gold laner, and I think he played it very well, especially with the amount of blitzkrieg tactics we've seen from the side of RSG. Instantly, as soon as we engage, we're looking to pick somebody off straight away. Let's not hesitate on it.
Yeah, it's a playstyle that enables Loliao to play confidently and aggressively, right? If he wants to be in your face, he will do that with whatever hero you give him. And of course, not long ago, we had the changes to concentrated energy, right? Now it gives you hybrid lifesteal.
Yes.
So for Harif, it makes it even better. He gets the best of both worlds.
I do slightly disagree with the MVP rank. I feel like Izanami deserves a little bit more of a shout out because his NetherRealm timings were really what allowed RSGMY to just run at Monster Vicious. Even though Vegas, who is known for being a good Vermis, stole the NetherRealm a lot of the time, he just couldn't quite match up. And I do think, again, the itemization plays into it a little bit because I thought you have 3 sources of magic damage, build some Atinas, build some Radiance, you should be fine. Why did Novak Skubar not build any magic defense?
Well, I guess he was being very confident in terms of the way he wants to manage the team. He thinks that he's able to kind of like regenerate enough health off of the Vengeances more times. And he's also running the Brave Smite as well. So I would have imagined that eventually he would have gotten the MR. I'm surprised it just took him this long to get to that point.
Yeah. I think also because for Monster Vicious, we talked about this a little bit where Izanami, every time he uses the NetherRealm, it is more than enough to bail everyone out because there's not enough follow-up damage from MV. It's always rough. Sure, I mean, Zeno comes in, drops his full combo, breaks the NetherRealm, and now he has to wait for cooldowns, right? No one else on the side of MV have enough damage to finish off the stragglers aside from Ruff, and he cannot be in the fight all the time, especially when his team is not ready to respond.
Well, let's also not forget that from the side of RSG, their lineup and their 2 magic damage dealers both have AoE. It's not just the Chrono Dash you have to worry about, it's the Synchro Fissure as well. If you're right in the middle of it, you lose pretty much 80% of the temp HP almost instantaneously, and once you have full build, for some of the squishies, you instantly break it.
And you have to worry about both Lolil and Benoku at the same time. And Kaiser, gotta give him the shout out once again. It's been so long since he's been on the MPL stage, but the way that he split up these team fights and caused complete chaos by making sure that his tempo to enter the fight was a little bit slower than Storm, so that Monster Vicious would already have full committed and be grouping together.
Yeah.
It feels like he never really left.
No, it kind of you also see how RSG they stretched out their abilities, right? Your crowd control, and like Sadapa pointed out, Storm starts the fight first, and then Kaiser shows up. So MV, you thought that you've gone through everything? No, there is still Kaiser disrupting your backline. And at one point, if you are forcing MV to fight 5v5, Zeno does not get to unleash this Paquito.
And the way that Monster Vicious' lineup works is that their heroes just generally have similar ranges of attack, right? You don't really have anyone that's able to stand far in the backline. And Zeno, unfortunately, building full damage, still wasn't able to execute RSGMY's backline because of the NetherRealm constantly. So MV just ends up looking like a bit of a ball most of the time, which is exactly how RSG wants to fight.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being in that ball formation in the first place, right? It was going well from early to mid. They were trading pretty much equally throughout the map, and eventually RSG just really took it away once they got that, once they got the Lord in place and also an inhibitor on the top side of the map. So it really came down to very few fights in the overall matchup. It's not as chaotic as we expected it to be. It was pretty cool, calm, and collected, and more so precision in the fight was more important than the timing.
And some off-tempo plays led by Storm as well, right? This random gang onto the top side that completely caught Ruff off guard. And sure, you're giving up your support, but while that was happening, they also got the turtle. The Fenogo just soloed the turtle without any contest. And that's these incremental things that RSG was able to get for themselves that eventually allowed them to just outskill MV. certain mistakes. I mean, again, Nova Escobar just seeing 4 members of RG enter a brush and still decides to face check it. That one was a bit of an error.
Without magic resist, mind you.
Yeah.
Just deciding, I'm gonna tank through this by sheer force of will alone.
Belief.
Believe.
He manifested it all together. I mean, there's nothing much I can really say more than that at this point, right? We're looking at these stats and it continues telling us the exact same thing. The fact that, well, actually, let's have a look at the rich. Oh, rich guy this time going to be in Vinogo. Rather surprising. I would have thought that this time it would have been Loliel's, but he's going to be the carry.
In Vinogo, he is the Nolan after all. Uncontested 3-0, I think, at the end of the game. So he's farming everything from heroes to turrets to objectives. A sandbag is stolen on this Minotaur, 124,000 total damage tanked. And of course, Loliel is his own best wingman.
he is his own best wingman. Why do you need a wingman when you can be the best one there for yourself? Have some self-confidence, everyone.
This is one of your high-five yourself kind of moments.
Basically.
Oh boy. This is, I mean, I think that we didn't really get to see enough of MV in terms of just overall playmaking capabilities just yet, right? We didn't get to see the crazy Nova X Kobar moment, but I definitely think it's something that MV needs to start considering for the next upcoming draft, because it feels like RSG has clearly practiced the composition of this sort multiple times. They're very clean with it. They're very together with their decisions.
I'd say that the draft that MV picked in Game 1 isn't really vicious enough. You're not playing at a fast enough tempo to match up with RSG MY. And again, I don't think the draft itself is inherently poor. It's more like when you start losing tempo, your win conditions shrink. But if you kind of broaden that, broaden those aspects, you have the Paquito on one side, and perhaps your mid laner is a Lilia or Nana that is dealing damage, then perhaps you have more ways to kind of play around your composition, even though you might be behind.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a very similar situation to what we saw from match 1 today as well. Making sure that your lineup has a good balance of damage, bulkiness, and crowd control is important. Not to mention keeping track of what phases of the game your team composition is going to be the strongest here. And RGMY clearly had a better idea of this. There were times when they were able to trade somewhat during these team fights, but it's clear that they held most of the advantage throughout the game. A lot of that attributing to Stone being very willing to use his Minwen Fury even on individual targets because he knows the value they represent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's those decisions that really make the difference here. Unfortunate for Monster Vicious, we need to see them be a little bit more to their namesake, a little bit more vicious in the way that they actually play. Because if we are going to go for a full damage Paquito, I would have expected
to all MPL-MY fans that he is not just a one-trick pony, he's not just a Fredrin bot, he's not just a Barat's bot. He can have other pocket picks to bring to the table as well. And who would have thought that the double fighter side lane marksman jungle meta would work against a team like RSGMY?
Well, blast to the past nonetheless. This Granger, deadly accurate, 4-0 and 3 nonetheless. This entire game he has been deathless and accurate on the trigger finger. Every time, just being able to not only take important objectives, but that ultimate snipe has always been a crucial tool to whittle down the members of RSG.
I mean, the Death Sonata has been a great tool, not only to kind of slow down engages, but to look for those big executes for the low targets and squishier targets in the composition. I think, you know, pair that with the fact that you have other tools at your disposal as well. As long as you position well, you're generally going to be okay. And Venogod, he didn't get punished too often in this matchup, but at the very least, he did have to always keep that into consideration. What angle do I have to stand in front to block these shots?
Yeah, you look at kind of the KD, especially for Venugo and Kaiser, the one death was the only death that kind of ended the game for RSGMY. So this painfully slow tug-of-war sort of game, I think at the end of the day, it was MV's patience that really paid off at the end. And just, again, taking advantage of RSG's force habits.
Is this an indication that a team that is very reliant on a singular source of DPS doesn't quite match up in today's meta?
Depends on how you execute it. You could see a lot of times that when RSG that when RSG does find the actual good engage, it really didn't matter how much quote-unquote damage you actually had. It's just very quick, clean, and when you execute it well, you never stood a chance to begin with. And I think that goes for both teams here, whether it be MV or even RSG. A one clean engage, that's all you need, and basically you win the fight before it even starts.
I think the numbers here can kind of reinforce that, right? Lolio and Izanami, they both deal the most damage on their team, and honestly on the side of MV, it was Fake's majority of the time because he's a Vexana. But then you look at Subway as this Gradient jungler, didn't do as much as the carry nor the Valentina, but it's the fight that matters for MV. Every time these damage are being pumped up, they're getting something in return.
It goes to show, right? Execution is extremely key. Having some strong fundamentals, and more importantly, just the macro here has been setting the difference, and has been the overall theme for these past two best of threes.
And it does feel bad for RSGMY. They were doing such a good job of keeping the lanes pushed up and separating Monster Vicious so that they could take advantage of catches with the Divine Judgment. But it turns out that their gameplay, all it took was that one push for the House of Cards to just come toppling down when there's so much DPS coming out of Monster Vicious. And Subway positioning excellently behind all of the bulk of his team. It's very difficult for RSG to actually jump in and dive that backline. Kaiser, that's kind of his job, but Arlet just not having a good time this season.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Nova Escobar. His response on Minotaur towards every RSG move has been impeccable. His counter engages, his awareness to identify which targets to protect. And the craziest thing was, prior to that last team fight, he was ganged out by multiple RSG members. Not for a second he thought of unleashing that ultimate as a means of escape. He let the Immortality tank that revive, and afterwards he had the tool to respond to RSG.
Hey man, suppressions are difficult to get rid of, and I think that, yes, he could have preemptively forced it out, but at the end of it, I think it's all about finding those right moments. And for RSG, it felt like they got into a pattern towards the end, especially once you've dragged it on for at least 20 minutes into these games, where each and every one of these kills is going to be very valuable with, what, 40 to 50 second death timers here. That's when it becomes very punishing, and that's when Storm can really say, hey, I pick one person, that person needs to die.
That's kind of what like you guys pointed out early on, where it's a actually very smart move for MV to move together as a unit. He also understood what RSG was thinking.
I mean, to a certain extent, it's two sides of the exact same coin. They play very, very similarly, and I think the only real difference is the EXP laners and how they manage their waves and how they actually have the outlook on the game of, oh, do I want to scrape up gold, or do I want to kind of group up together to make sure we win every single neutral?
And a direct comparison, Paquito is definitely always going to be better at split pushing as compared to Arlet. And I think that's one of the weaknesses that you see in Arlet as a hero, as an EXP laner. It's a very important job, especially in these really back-to-forth situations, to be able to force someone away by pushing the other side of the map. Instead, that job had to be relegated to other members of RSGMY, and although they did do a good job of that, not having as many tools to split up the fight and having very orchestrated styles of engagement depending on their Divine Judgment allowed Monster Vicious all the time they needed to fine-tune their strategy.
This is probably the first and the last time we'd see a gold laner taking the most damage in a single game.
Oh boy, I don't know. I still don't know how to feel about this CC in the gold lane just yet. Obviously, it does have its own benefits, and I think, you know, having the Vengeance as an insurance policy that you don't actually die in that 1v1 is kind of nice to have. But is this going to be the direction of where the meta is going to lean to? Hey, you want to play a more dominant gold laner? Sure, I'm just going to play a fighter to kind of find the counter.
Well, it's always been a valid option, but CC would normally not be the hero you go for in that situation because you'd want something that pressures more heavily, like Paquito or Yuizong, right? CC just so happens to match very well into the carry, so whether or not more teams will pick up this hero in the gold lane, well, we'll just have to see.
Okay, we're late enough into the day.
I've silenced the desk.
It's a 20-minute game, man.
Come on. We just got out of We're not even done with the series, man.
That one deserves that timer.
It-
That one just...
Congratulations to Stone for earning the title of MVP of the match. It was a very messy match, I will say, to the degree where I don't really know if anyone deserves MVP in this situation. But hey, Stone was the one that was able to bring back a lot of these team fights for RSG MY despite everything. So we'll give it to him.
I mean, the mad cow of RSGMY, right? And as much as Game 3, he also had his moments, but you know, you gotta give it to him. During the important times, he's making those shot calls. Even though he's not the one engaging, his ultimates have always been able to kind of slow down the tempo of MV.
I think he's been consistent at
Yes.
the very least, and I think that's more important than anything else, with everybody making some awkward mistakes or just a little bit, or just don't have the tools to get in on the fight. The only person who can is going to be Stone to try and create and open up an opportunity to do so, right? That was what this whole game was about. The supports battling amongst each other, trying to create that big opening for their team to actually start flooding through and winning the fight before it even starts.
We reached a point where a lot more heroes have no shoes than those who do.
Yep. You know, when you get to that point, it's going to be a rough time because everyone's just running around the land of Dawn barefoot. And it's a very long game.
And it's slow. Look at that.
So it's slow.
Subway even bought Queen's Wings. When was the last time you saw that item?
Oh, man. Man. Quite a while. And I mean, he has been consistently switching out his items to make sure that he's on top of everything else. Overall, I would say at least the kill count starts to reflect what we were expecting, but the 28 game duration, oh, dude. So many things could have been done better, like small adjustments in a matter of fact. And I think that RSG, yes, a lot of trust is being given to the players here, but also a lot of their confidence were taken away throughout this match and slowly built up from the ground.
And some of them are based off of errors from Monster Vicious, right? Some glaring one. I mean, I know you have a decent lead, but that tier 2 mid dive, I think that's kind of what really caused their snowball to hit a dead end and gave RSG the confidence to slowly take back control.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know who thought of that.
That was mad.
That was actually legit crazy. Like, I don't know who made that call, who thought that was a good idea, but hey, I respect them for making the effort and trying to get away with. I think that even shocked RSG for a moment.
keeping
Respect the effort, not the result.
keeping Arlo at 0 wins.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, Claude also has not won a game.
Oh, my God. You know, maybe I was proven right after all. I didn't like the draft when the draft finished, and I'm proven right.
I don't know if I don't like the draft or more like I don't like what the player did at that moment. I think I'll go with the latter. I think the draft was okay.
I think that overall, personally for me, I would agree with that statement. I think that the draft is generally okay, and it is a very clear win condition when it happens. When you see Nova Escobar get a good final slash on that backline of Izanami, Lolios, and as well as Stoem. Most of the time, if Stoem isn't there and Izanami and Lolios gets caught anyways by Ruff in the Blazing Duet, it's basically over.
I think what we can tell from this is that it's very clear that both these teams have a lot of refining to do. This is unfortunately not quite the peak RSG that we witnessed last season. Monster Vicious is still a very promising team. They've done some very interesting things, bringing in the Granger meta, and Nova Escobar finally showing us how Arlet is supposed to be played, even though unfortunately it wasn't able to get that victory the hero so desperately wants. But still, yeah, I have no more words to say. This has been this has been exhausting.
I think it's good to see RSG start on a lower note compared to last season. I know their first series was against Homeboys, and that was kind of a crazy one. Homeboys won 2-1, but RSG felt like they start at the very top. Now we get to kind of witness RSG's refinement journey and the whole process throughout the entire regular season. Perhaps it's for the better, right? It's for a prime RSG.
Yeah, I think I could agree with that sentiment, right? Because again, this is going to be a build-up from a team that dominated the regular season to dropping off in the playoffs compared to now where it's like, man, that was a pretty rough game against MV. They can only go up from here and maybe even get a qualification spot for MSC.
Yeah, props
That
to
is
MV.
true.
Props to MV for even taking a game off of RSG and almost taking the entire series, right? We talk about tier 2 Slayers, how will they fare on the big stage? I think MV did very well.
Very well with quotes.
Yeah,
I think that's the best we can represent it. In the end, though, from the highlights, we could tell here that Monster Vicious felt very confident going into this. The way that they split up the fight, the way that Xeno was able to threaten the backline, and the bombastic ways that the Arlet was being utilized to bully in the jungle, to set up kills, to really get some clean final slashes. Probably some of the best we have seen all day today. But many minute mistakes, positioning errors, and trying to prolong and take fights that they're not in positions to continue really did cost Monster Vicious all the advantage that they were able to build up for themselves.
I mean, it's just continuous fights after fights, right? And the shape of it never really changes all the time. We could see that MV figured out what they wanted to do early on, and RSGNY just needed to catch up on the agenda. And I think that's something that they're going to have to work on throughout the rest of this week and even for the upcoming, for the rest of the weeks of the season. At the end of the day, I think that at least for MV, I like to see that sort of confidence, right? Obviously, there are a couple of like a little trolly, a little throwable plays, of course, but
Dead.
Carry no,
Nice
carry,
one.
carry,
I can go.
no flick,
Go,
no
go,
flick,
go,
no
go,
flick.
go, go, go.
Nice, L. Come on, L, come on, L. Come on.
Nice,
Click.
nice one.
Click.
I'm alive.
Carry
Nice
out,
kill.
carry out of position. Carry out of position.
Yeah, yeah, go. Carry. Dead. Nice. Double dash.
Fight to behind.
I still have
Ingen stop.
Tower.
Two catapults, two
AV
catapults.
mo. And
Nice, easy.
nice.
Go.
Nice team!
Nice. Huli na, oh.
Freddy.
Mati.
Panas!
Boss, ingat.
Depan.
Nice one.
Nice. Mana. Kasih tahu, Tom. Nice.
Fight.
Go. Menang. Nice.
Mampus.
Freddy.
Ready.
Kejar, Tom. Kejar.
Go.
Nice.
Macam tu lah.
Dead. Yeah, lapo. Push.
Go
Lapo.
Heal. I have.
Yeah, we have flash. Nice. Fredrin can chase.
Chase.
I still have ulti.
I go mid.
Black is jump. Nice one. Nice.
Lord still full HP. Claude no BM.
Clot low.
Tower lock.
Tower.
Nice.